Hello everyone, today I'm going to be showing you my Templock build. So first of all, I need to say, if you're playing as a Templock and you want to deal damage, then don't play as a Templock. When you're a Templock, your job is simple. Heal, buff, debuff. You should always focus on those three aspects in the entire setup of your build. So I'm going to show you my build, the best way and the perfect way to actually deal the debuff, the buff, and the heals. If you do not agree with it, go ahead, don't agree with me, but unless you show me a different way to buff or debuff, I don't care about the DPS at all. Like, I don't give a shit at all. So, we're gonna start by just making my companion attack. If you get out of the mood, okay. So if we go at my character sheet, if we look at my gear, I'm playing with okay, we're gonna start with my stats. My character is built around being a Templock, so I'm a Scourge Warlock main, but a Templock more specifically. So when I roll my stat as a Dragonborn, I choose Intelligence and Charisma and not Constitution because it was not my point, my goal. My goal was to get more armor pen, more recharge speed, and also more critical chance. So that's all. I don't care about anything else. Damage is just a secondary part of the build, and you won't be dealing a lot of damage even if you try at your hardest. So if we go with my gear, I'm using the Lizardman Skull Mask, the Vinewave Death Delayer, and the Royal Silk Musketeer. Why I'm using those, oh, and also the Bone Spur. The reason I'm using those is just to get an all-around build. I'm focusing on getting around 70% crit or more, 70% lifesteal or more, and trying to get the most of I can of every other stats without dropping too much my lifesteal or my crit chance. Another thing that's important when you're looking for a build of Templock is try to avoid being too low on lifesteal. If you're under 50%, personally I think you're too low, because as soon as your team's going to be hitting a damage overtime phase on any boss, you're not going to deal enough, you're not going to put out enough heal, even if you have 30%, especially those who say 30% is enough. That's not true. As soon as you hit damage overtime, or they're getting hit too fast with different kind of enemy, they are going to be dying because you do not push out enough heals. Because unlike the old time when the Owlbear Cob was dishing out 70,000 heal per tick, now it's only going to be at the best 40,000, and that's at stacking. You're going to be around 17k if you're not buff with your Elish Rebuke, or any damage over time is going to be under 10k. So depending on the attack, you're not going to be dealing a lot of damage. You're just going to be doing a lot of small healing. So the more of them that hits, the better. If you're too low, it won't do the work. So the Lizard's Skull Mask and the Death Delayer, what's good about them is they're giving me more armor class, more defense, more lifesteal. I was using the Grave Keeper that was giving me 2,000 in crit, but by switching to the Lizard's Skull Mask, I'm getting 1,500 crit. So I decided to switch those to get more defense, lifesteal, and deflect by losing a little bit of lifesteal and a little bit of crit. The reason I'm using the Royal Silk is to get more recovery, more crit, pretty simple. At your feet, using Bone Spur, give you more crit. For the weapon, I recommend you to use anything that can buff you or your team. Anything that gives you extra damage, it's not really important for you damage. If you're using that as a secondary build, then you can use your main weapon, doesn't really matter. But if you're looking for a pure buff, you're gonna look for the Mastercraft weapon 1, 2, or 3. They stack together even if they're not at the same rank, and they're gonna give the buff to all of your teammates. So it is a 2% extra damage resistance, and healing output or incoming healing. And also they stack. So if there's 3 of your team that have them, it's going to be around 6% in total with your team. As artifact, I'm using Charm of the Serpent for extra buff again. You can also use the Sigil of the Nine if you don't have the Charm of the Serpent. Sphere of Black Ice, Lifesteal Recovery, good. Power Defense Deflect with the Tome of Ascendancy. And as you can see, all of my gear has lifesteal in it because, like I said, I'm going above 50% because it's better that way if your role is to keep your team healed, and also your lifesteal is gonna buff your team. Like I've been showing it with my stat, I have 32 in intellect. That's because I'm using the company's Raider Cloak, give me strength and intellect. Also using the Greater Owlbear Leather Belt of Intelligence to give me more intelligence again. I've been lucky enough to have the Grave Striker +5, but you can use pretty much any ring that's going to be giving you power, crit, recovery, armor pen. Don't go for a defense ring unless you're on your companion if you're really low on lifesteal. Otherwise, use offense ring and try to get the 2 slot. Like if I look at the Ring of the Cursebringer, 1 offense, 1 defense, but with actually good stat, and it's also gonna stun the enemy. When we're going to the shirt and pants, the Greater Everfrost undercoat and the Greater Everfrost trouser, the best 2-piece you can get. Their bonus is simple. As soon as you hit a lifesteal and your lifesteal is greater than your deflect, that it should be, you're gonna double your lifesteal severity by 2, so you're gonna be dealing more heal every single time. If we go to the power, Dread Theft gives you an extra 15% in damage resistance on the target. Gonna debuff it by 15%. End of Blight, if you can use it in your rotations, gonna also debuff the amount of damage the enemy deal. Pillar of Power have been switched from mod 12, so in mod 13 it gives as soon as you proc it, even if you're a DPS or a Templock, you're gonna give an extra 9% damage resistance and damage to your team as long as they stay in it. Elish Rebuki, we're gonna see in the feed, but they're gonna give you some debuff too. Tyrannical Curse, extremely good if there's a lot of mobs. You're gonna be out healing most of the damage unless it's a one shot. No Pity No Mercy to get an extra debuff again. Rave Shadow, that's the power is gonna be switching with different depending on how your setup is. So Rave Shadow gonna decrease the damage the enemy dealt by 15%. So if your team is dying a lot because the enemy is hitting you too hard, Rave Shadow can be good as long as you curse the enemy first. Yes, if you curse the enemy first, you're gonna hit all of the target around you. So one target is gonna deal damage, but the debuff is gonna be all around. If you're super low on lifesteal, Warlock's Bargain is a good option. You're gonna switch Rave Shadow for it. It's gonna actually give you 30% extra lifesteal. If you're questing, Blade of Vanquished Army is a good way to stay alive and to deal like decent damage, even though the build is not made for damage. It's gonna help you stay alive by giving you an extra 15% in deflect. Gate of Hell, good damage dealer if you're questing solo. Hadars Grasp is gonna be the 4th choice you can go for debuff. It is not written there, but on the internet, YouTubers and other people are saying that it has an hidden debuff that's gonna make you buff even more or debuff the target. So the last one's gonna be All-Consuming Curse. You're gonna understand why. Applying Lesser Curse gonna decrease the enemy defense. So if we go with the feat, that's how I've placed my heroic feat. You can choose to change it if you want. What I recommend is Determining Casting, Empowered Ritual, and Devastating Critical. The rest over here, you can choose whatever you want. If you're human, you can go with the 3% extra lifesteal if you're low, or you can go with increased damage dealt by a Lesser Curse. It's however you want. In Fury, you're gonna choose Critical Promise, Gatekeeper Empowerment, 2 damage boost, not really important, but still gonna be useful. And Infernal Wrath is gonna be the debuff that go with Lesser Curse I was talking about. So lesser curse causes the target to have 5% less damage resistance. If we go down to the temptation, it's Hope Stealer, Elish Condemnation, Elish Rebuke, gonna make the target deal 5% less damage. Dark Rivalry, increase the run speed and power of your team as soon as you do a lifesteal, and it's automatically refresh. So if you keep doing lifesteal, it's always gonna be up. Aura of Despair. The enemy within 50 feet of you deals 5% less damage and take 5% increased damage, so that is actually really good. And Aura of Cruelty, you're going to make your team being a little bit more tanky by increasing their lifesteal chance and lifesteal severity. And finally, we go with the Soul Bonding. Whenever you deal damage, you're going to heal. Also, all of the allies that hit the curse target going to deal 20% more damage, and also increasing your lifesteal chance by 10%. So if we go for the boons, Stronghold, if you're doing T9G and you're not at 85%, go with the Armor Pen. 85%, you need to go with Armor Pen, otherwise it's a power boon. If we go Lifesteal bonus, if you don't have it, go with Defense, but don't forget, you need at least 50% to, in my opinion, to be the best Templock you can be, or even greater if you can. And after that, it's pretty much whatever you want. PvP boon, go with whatever you want. So the campaign, I'm just gonna go really quick about it. For Dead Ring, their only thing, I do not recommend using Endless Consumption. In my opinion, it's completely useless because you're not looking for doing one big hit of heal. You're just trying to heal always. So if you're playing with anything others than the spell and the way I've showed you, you're going to be using that because your healing is going to be way too low to actually help your teammates. So if you have a chance of your lifesteal to be tripled, so with the shirt and pants it's going to be like being 6 times more important, that's when it's going to be important. Other than that, just don't care about it. Go with Rampaging Magnus. It's going to increase your lifesteal, your regen, and your power. That's, in my opinion, it's going to be way better. So the campaign of Icewind Dale. Another thing is your lifesteal is not considered healing, so rousing warmth or any other thing that say that your healing power now deal damage, they do not work with the lifesteal. Otherwise your damage output would have been quite important, like a lot better. Under Dark Campaign, again, Tyranny. For Tyranny, I've only chose. Oops, my bad. For Tyranny, I only picked up 1 in Dragon's Thirst to increase my lifesteal by 4%, to get 2 extra percent above 6.5% in crit severity. Don't think it's worth it. Try to get 100% crit severity if you can. So when you crit, you actually deal extra damage. So it's more heal at the end. For Elemental Evil, you can go with Recovery or Critical Strike, whatever you want. Storm King Thunder again. Even if you do not have a lot of deflect, getting an extra 5,000 damage, still better than nothing. And 2 in Chill of Winter. You can go with the Lifesteal or the Recovery in Cloak Ascendancy, doesn't really matter. And Campaign and Chill, the reason I didn't choose Power is to get a little bit more hit points. And you can even choose Power at the end. I'm gonna, for the next 3 points I have here, I'm gonna put Tyrant Terror, Defense, and Deflect. And if I can, I'm gonna put Lingering Curse to get to add up a little bit more extra damage. If we look at the companion, you as your main companion, you can use Scholten Tiger, extra damage, pretty good. It also increases the damage the target receives by 10%, so it's a good buff for your team. You can also select the Con Artist or the Ambush Drake. Those two have also a debuff on their attack. The only companion other than those 3 that you can use as your main, I recommend, is the Bear Cub, to increase by a little your damage not your lifesteal output if you're into receiving a lot of damage. So there's a 10% chance of increasing your lifesteal chance by 75%. And lifesteal severity by 25%, and that lifesteal severity is going to be double with your pen and shirt when you're doing a lifesteal. So it is actually quite good, especially if you're low on lifesteal, but also if you're in a zone that you receive a lot of damage or any of your teammates receive a lot of damage, especially in damage over time section. As you can see over here, I'm using a 2-slot defense ring to get more lifesteal out of my companion because I was a little bit low for me. Other than that, critical strike and power, pretty much decent all around. If we go with mount, if you don't have a legendary mount, you can switch Cavalry's Warning with pretty much whatever you want. You can use a Protector's Camaraderie level 2. It's going to be only like 2. I think it's going to be Regal and Barb. So you're going to get an extra percentage of power and defense from your companion when it is attacking. Other than that, you can use pretty much whatever you want in those insignia. If you're missing critical strike, lifesteal, armor pen, put them in those. So if we look at my character stats, on my own I have around 40k power in combat, 21k in critical strike. I'm missing a little bit of armor pen. I need to switch out one rune from my speed build to make it up for my armor pen. Defense all around, it should be good. So if you see, I'm at a little bit above 75%. I'm missing 1.5% in crit severity. That's my bad. Recharge speed at 100%. And 75% of lifesteal, 123% in lifesteal severity. Like I said, your healing output, and that's going to also be buffing your team at the same time. If you're playing with a paladin that has Prism on, Prism's going to be affected by the perk that say with your healing power. So if you're sending lifesteal to him and he's sending it back to everyone else, as soon as he heals someone or something like that, he's going to start dealing damage with those attacks. So you, by healing him, is going to be able to dish out more damage at the same time. So that's pretty much it. So as you can see, it's really about all debuff. I don't care at all about DPS. If you have certain opinion, for the armor enchantment, I'm using negation. In my opinion, the Bard Shield is completely useless as a Templock, because if you get hit more than 3 times, you're going to lose it. So negation and or shadow, the shadow one, I don't remember the name. That's gonna be the best in slot in my opinion. If you're not getting hit a lot, well, the Bard Shield can still be useful. And as your main end, you should use, I'm using a Transcendent Terror. You can use any enchantment that debuffs, so it can be Terror, Plague Fire, Frost. Well, pretty much every single enchantment is going to have a debuff on the enemy, so make sure to at least put the best debuff you can on your character. So that's pretty much it. As you can see, cursor target, cast it. The only thing that I really don't like about Shadow's Wraith, it's the casting on it is a little bit hard to grasp, because if your cursor is not literally inside the hitbox quotation, because the hitbox is sometimes it's not the entire character. Let's say in Orcus in T9G is going to be like the top part of his body. If you're not aiming for that, it won't be casting the power. Other than that, it's pretty much self-explaining. So have a great day everyone, and see you next time.